In the frozen heart of the Ontario wilderness, where winter lasts 8 months and the sun barely crests the treetops in December, lived an old trapper named Elias Crow. At 65, he knew these woods better than any man alive, having trapped beaver and marten here since boyhood. His cabin sat alone on the shore of Black Lake, a place the Ojibwe called Mishipeshu's Mirror, warning that something ancient watched from its depths. Elias laughed at such tales. He was a man of iron traps and sharp knives, not superstitions. This year, however, the animals had vanished. No tracks, no scat, not even crows in the sky. His smokehouse was nearly empty, and with Christmas approaching, hunger gnawed at him like an old friend turned enemy. On December 20th, he loaded his snowshoes and rifle, kissed the photograph of his long-dead wife, and headed north into uncharted territory, deeper than any sane man would go alone. The snow was deep and dry, squeaking under his steps like brittle bones. As night fell, the temperature plummeted to 30 below, and the wind began to carry a strange sound, a low, mournful call that rose and fell like a starving wolf, yet formed something almost like words. Elias told himself it was only the wind playing tricks through the pines, but deep down, a chill, unrelated to the cold, settled in his chest.
By the third day, Elias had entered a valley no map showed, ringed by sheer granite walls that caught and amplified every sound. Here the trees grew unnaturally tall, their trunks black against the white, branches interlaced so tightly that little snow reached the ground. He found the first sign that morning: human footprints, barefoot, impossibly long and thin, appearing suddenly in the middle of a frozen stream, as if the walker had dropped from the sky. The tracks led deeper into the valley, and though every instinct screamed to turn back, Elias followed. Hunger was sharpening his mind into something dangerous. He needed meat, any meat. That afternoon, he came upon a small clearing, and what lay in its center stopped his heart. A man, or what had been a man, lay frozen against a stump, skin gray and stretched tight over protruding bones, mouth torn open in an eternal scream. The corpse's fingers had clawed deep furrows into its own abdomen, frozen blood black against the snow. Worst of all were the teeth, sharpened to points, some broken off in the gums, as if the poor soul had tried to eat stone. Elias recognized the signs from old stories his mother once whispered, the final stage of Wendigo madness. He backed away, crossing himself, though he hadn't believed in God for 40 years, and fled the clearing. That night, camped beneath an overhang, the calling began again, closer now, speaking his name in a voice like cracking ice. Elias, so hungry, join us.
Sleep came in fits, haunted by dreams of endless running through snow that turned to flesh beneath his feet. When Elias woke, his hands were numb, not from cold, but from something deeper. He stared at them in the pale morning light and saw the fingers had lengthened overnight, joints swelling, nails darkening and curving. Panic surged through him, hot and terrifying. He tried to convince himself it was frostbite, arthritis, anything rational, but the hunger that followed was beyond reason. It wasn't in his stomach, it was everywhere, in his blood, his bones, his thoughts. He caught a ptarmigan with his bare hands and devoured it, feathers and all, warm blood running down his chin like sweet wine. The taste should have disgusted him, but it only made him want more. Throughout the day, he followed the barefoot tracks, no longer choosing to, but compelled, as if an invisible line tugged at his chest. The valley narrowed, the cliffs closing in until the sky was only a thin gray ribbon overhead. Strange carvings appeared on the rock faces, crude antlers, elongated skulls, figures with hollow eyes. Elias's breath came in ragged gasps, each exhale lingering longer in the air, forming shapes that almost looked like faces. By dusk, the calling had become a chorus, many voices weaving together in a song of eternal starvation. He pressed his hands to his ears, but the sound was inside him now, promising that if he just gave in, the pain would stop.
On the fifth night, the transformation accelerated. Elias awoke to find his spine aching as if it were growing, vertebrae popping and shifting beneath his skin. He tore off his coat and shirt, staring in horror at his reflection in the frozen stream. His ribs stood out like the tines of a rake, skin turning translucent and gray. From his forehead, sharp points pushed through the flesh, antlers, small but unmistakable, dripping frozen blood. The pain was excruciating, yet beneath it ran a dark exhilaration. For the first time in days, the hunger eased slightly, replaced by power. He stood taller, straighter, his senses sharpening until he could hear the heartbeat of a mouse beneath the snow 50 yards away. The scent of living meat flooded his nostrils, intoxicating. Somewhere deep inside, the man he had been screamed in terror, but that voice grew fainter with each passing hour. The chorus welcomed him now, no longer calling from afar, but singing through his own mouth when he opened it to breathe. He ran then, not away, but toward the source of the voices, leaping drifts that should have swallowed him, moving faster than any human could. In a moonlit clearing, he found them, 3 figures like living shadows, 9 feet tall, antlered crowns branching against the stars, eyes glowing with cold blue fire. They regarded him without surprise, as if they had been waiting. The largest stepped forward and placed a skeletal hand upon his shoulder. In that touch, Elias felt centuries of starvation, of men and women who had come here seeking survival and found only eternal appetite.
The final remnants of Elias's humanity clung on through the 6th day like frost on a window pane. It hunted with the others now, moving silently through the endless white. They taught him the old ways, how to mimic voices carried on the wind, how to plant insatiable hunger in the minds of travelers, how to erase tracks so no rescue could ever follow. The thing that had been Elias felt no remorse, only satisfaction, as they brought down a lone moose, tearing into it while it still kicked. Warm meat filled the void temporarily, but never completely. That was the curse and the gift. At night, they gathered in a circle beneath the aurora, heads thrown back, calling across the wilderness to draw new souls. The chorus grew stronger with each addition. Sometimes fragments of memory surfaced, his wife's laugh, the smell of pine smoke from his cabin, the warmth of Christmas mornings long ago. But these were quickly drowned beneath waves of need. On the 7th night, a new set of tracks appeared at the valley's edge, fresh snowshoe prints, deep and purposeful. A young ranger, perhaps, or another desperate trapper seeking game. The pack stirred with anticipation. The newest member, still bearing traces of Elias's weathered face beneath the stretching skull, felt the strongest pull. It knew these woods intimately, knew every trail and shortcut. As the moon rose full and crimson, the creatures moved southward toward the intruder, their calls weaving a net of hunger that no human will could resist.
The ranger's name was Sarah Kincaid, 28 years old, sent to investigate reports of missing trappers near Black Lake. She found Elias's abandoned cabin on Christmas Eve, the door hanging open, snow drifting across the threshold. Inside, everything was in order. Wood stacked neatly, traps hung on pegs, but the smokehouse stood empty, and the bed hadn't been slept in for days. A single photograph lay face down on the table, Elias and a dark-haired woman smiling in summer sunlight. Sarah's breath fogged in the frigid air as she radioed her position, receiving only static in reply. Something about the silence felt wrong. Even the wind had died. She stepped back outside and saw the tracks, 4 sets of barefoot
prints emerging from the tree line, impossibly long, leading straight toward her. Her training screamed ambush, but curiosity and duty won out. She followed them north, deeper into the wilderness than any patrol had gone before. Night fell quickly, the temperature dropping until her eyelashes froze together. Then she heard it, her father's voice, dead 10 years now, calling her name from the darkness ahead. "Sarah, come home. So cold, so hungry." Every rational part of her mind knew it was impossible, yet her feet carried her forward against her will. The hunger began as a small ache in her stomach, but spread rapidly, becoming obsession. She unslung her rifle, but found her hands shaking too badly to aim. In a clearing beneath towering pines, she finally saw them, gaunt silhouettes with branching antlers, eyes burning like winter stars. The nearest one stepped into the moonlight, and Sarah's heart stopped. Beneath the monstrous visage, she recognized Elias Crow's eyes, once kind, now hollow and ravenous.
Sarah's last human thought was of her father's funeral, how she had promised to always come home for Christmas. Then the hunger consumed everything. The pack closed in, not to kill, but to welcome. She felt their cold hands on her skin, heard their song in her blood. Her spine cracked and lengthened, bones grinding as antlers pushed through her skull in bursts of agony and ecstasy. Her uniform tore away as her body stretched, skin pulling tight until every rib showed. When the transformation completed, 5 figures stood in the clearing where 4 had been. The newest member still wore fragments of the ranger's jacket caught on branching antlers, frozen blood glittering like rubies. Together they turned back toward civilization, toward warm cabins and lonely travelers seeking solace in the woods during the holidays. Their calls carried farther now, enriched by fresh voices, Elias's gravelly timbre, Sarah's younger tone weaving through the chorus. Back at the abandoned cabin, the photograph on the table frosted over, faces blurring until unrecognizable. The wind picked up again, carrying their song southward across Black Lake and beyond, seeking those who might hear it on cold Christmas nights. Families gathered around fires reported strange sounds outside, loved ones long dead calling from the darkness, promising warmth if they would only open the door. Some resisted, others did not. Each year the pack grew slightly larger, the chorus richer, the hunger eternal. In the deepest part of the valley where no map reaches, they wait beneath ancient pines, patient as winter itself. Years later, search parties still occasionally venture toward Black Lake seeking the missing. They find abandoned cabins with doors hanging open, smokehouses empty, photographs face down on tables. Sometimes they find tracks, always more than expected, always barefoot, always leading north into unmapped territory. Those who follow never return. Locals have learned to stay indoors when the wind howls a certain way, when voices of lost loved ones drift across the snow. The Ojibwe elders nod knowingly and speak of the Wendigo spirit that claims those who let greed or desperation overpower respect for the land. They say the creature was never one monster, but many, each a warning about the thin line between survival and damnation. On Christmas Eve, churches in nearby towns fill to capacity, people seeking light against the darkness pressing at their windows. Children are warned never to answer calls from outside after dark, no matter how familiar the voice. Yet every year someone disappears. A lonely widower, a desperate hunter, a curious teenager daring friends to camp in the deep woods.
The pack grows patiently, eternally starving yet never satisfied. In the valley, beneath skies ablaze with aurora, they gather in their circle and sing their endless song of hunger, waiting for the next soul who believes themselves stronger than ancient warnings. The wind carries their call across frozen lakes and through silent forests, seeking ears willing to listen. Some nights, if you stand very still in the northern woods, you might hear it too. Your own name spoken in voices you almost recognize, promising an end to all emptiness if you would only follow. The cycle continues unbroken because humanity never learns. Each generation produces those who believe themselves immune to old stories, who venture too deep, seeking meat, solitude, or escape from painful memories. They carry modern gear, GPS units that lose signal, satellite phones that go silent, rifles that prove useless against what hungers for more than flesh. The Wendigo doesn't kill with claws or teeth. It kills with understanding. It shows you the void that has always lived inside, the endless wanting that civilization teaches you to ignore. Once you truly see it, there is no return. The transformed retain fragments of memory, enough to mimic loved ones' voices perfectly, enough to lure specific prey. A grieving mother hears her lost child. A lonely man hears his departed wife. They open doors or follow tracks into the night, and the pack grows. On certain nights, when the moon hangs low and red, witnesses near Black Lake report seeing tall figures moving between trees, antlers scraping stars, eyes glowing with cold fire. The figures never approach settled areas, but stand at forest edges, watching warm windows with infinite patience. Inside those houses, people sometimes wake with unexplained hunger, dreams of running through endless snow, chasing something forever just ahead. They shake it off as nightmares, never noticing how their reflections seem slightly thinner each morning, how their teeth ache strangely when biting into rare meat. The corruption spreads slowly, until one winter they find themselves walking north without quite knowing why, drawn by voices only they can hear. The valley waits, patient as stone, ready to welcome another voice to its eternal chorus. There is no ending to this story, only continuation. The Wendigo endures because hunger endures, in stomachs, in hearts, in souls. It wears the faces of those claimed, Elias's weathered features, Sarah's youthful determination, countless others lost across centuries. They move through perpetual winter, tireless guardians of their cursed domain, ensuring no traveler passes through unchanged. Modern world encroaches, logging roads push closer, drones fly overhead, scientists study climate shifts, but the valley remains untouched, reality bending around it like light around a black hole. Those who seek it find only what they carry within themselves, magnified infinitely. The elders' warnings evolve with time. Don't go alone. Don't speak its name. Don't answer calls from the dark. Yet always someone believes themselves exceptional. On this Christmas Eve and everyone to come, the pack gathers beneath northern lights, heads thrown back in song. Their voices weave together, old and young, male and female, trapper and ranger and mother and child, forming a harmony of pure need that carries across frozen wilderness. Somewhere, someone hears their name spoken in a beloved voice thought lost forever. Somewhere a door opens or tracks are followed into deepening snow. The hunger spreads, patient and inexorable,
claiming one more soul for its endless winter. In the deepest part of the forest, where no sun penetrates, the circle grows slowly larger, the chorus richer, waiting for the day when all voices join together in perfect, starving unity. Until then, they watch and call and welcome each new arrival with open arms and endless appetite. The Wendigo lives because we all, somewhere inside, understand its song.